You're listening to PJ and Friends on pjandfriends.com. Orlando, Florida.
PJ and Friends is proud to present another edition of their Spotlight interview series. And now, welcome your host, PJ.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us on the air Christine Alger. She is with the Megacon. That is an event that's every year here in Orlando. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for asking. I
really appreciate you taking time out. And just to give people a little bit of I kind of went crazy last week. We had a conversation here, and where a couple of us went last year, and we were looking at the fact that it was going a little later this year. And then I sent you a weird email, and then I called you, and it started off. And I first want to apologize to you. That was really not fair on my part, and I really appreciate you taking time out to talk to us today. What I'm really interested in, a couple of things. We'll talk about some of the things that the common concerns or feedback that you're getting, and we'll address those. But I also want to know about the history of Megacon. How did it start? Where did this? Who started it, and what was the concept, and what prompted that catalyst there?
It was actually started by a gentleman named James Brightbeal, and it took place in a small hotel, and then it moved to the Expo Center. And it wasn't until my mother became involved in the show that it actually moved to the Orange County Convention Center. And it started out as a very small, 1,500 to 2,000 attendee show. And when she got involved, it was maybe about 3,000 attendees.
Okay, and so, but a lot of events start that way. There are a lot of events, several comic book stores and all sorts. They do their own little thing. And this started back when? How long ago was this? Did this start?
On it, I don't have an exact date, but I can tell you it was in the early 90s.
I think you're right. Yeah, I vaguely remember when I looked back at the history. I want to. Yeah, it was 90 somewhere. And again, my notes aren't very good. And is this still a family event? Is it still a family-run business?
It is. My mother owns the event, and we run it together.
Very cool. And how many people in the family are involved with this? I mean, how big of a project is this to put on every year?
Well, it's a huge project to put on. There's actually 3 of us in the office. It's my mother, myself, and we have another employee his name is Jason Smith. So we actually are the 3 individuals that work 12 months out of the year to put the 3-day event on. On site, we have a very large draw, and fortunately I have a large family, so we definitely have family support on site. But the majority of the support that we have is through, on-site staffing companies and different things like that.
And so originally, was the event always held here in Orlando, or was it elsewhere and then moved to Orlando?
It has always been here in Orlando.
Very cool. But you're out of, I want to say you're out of Sarasota, aren't you? Or isn't the corporate office out of Sarasota? Why am I thinking?
No, the corporate office is actually out of North Florida. We live about an hour north of Gainesville.
Okay, because I didn't think you guys were local here. How would you say the event has changed? What point did you get involved? How long after its creation did you get involved?
I started working for the company 8 years ago as the director. My mother actually started running Megacon in 1999, and she purchased it outright from CrossGen Comics in 2003. So she's actually owned it outright since 2003, and I came on board at the end of 2006.
And in that time, how would you say it's changed? What between technology and the people and how it's what parts of this have changed over the years in that business?
Just about everything. I don't think that there's any facet of the show aside from the operational end as far as security and decorating and things like that. Of course, we've gotten much larger. Technology has definitely offered us another platform to advertise our event, and it is kind of one of those necessary evils. But the show in general has changed completely over the years. It's definitely gotten larger. We take a tremendous amount of space with the convention center, so that's definitely a lot of changes, and more changes to come.
And okay, so it's running a little later this year, and we'll get into that in a little bit. It's running in April this year. Normally it's a little earlier in the year. When one event ends, how long before you start planning the next one? Because this is you got a lot of moving parts to this.
We do, and we've actually already started planning 2016. We've had our 2016 dates now for relatively 3 to 5 months. So we're already looking at the space and the setup and logistics and all of those things. So we don't. there's always an overlap, and it's typically about 3 to 4 months of overlap. And typically within a week of wrapping up the current year's show, we're already full steam ahead into the next year's show.
Well, that's a big deal. So do you get any downtime? Do you get to relax at all, or is it a nonstop? It's like you can't take a day, or?
It is definitely nonstop, but I will be very honest with you. There are several weeks post show that we definitely have the ability to work less hours or to take a day or two off. We certainly still are able to take vacation time and do the things that anyone with a standard job does. It's just you take your work with you. It's kind of this business is very different from anything I've ever done. It is certainly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Well, yeah, I would say so, because you're dealing with artists and performers and so forth that might be in different time zones. So you're having to deal with all hours of the day and night. And if you have anybody coming from international, certainly that changes things for you guys with regards to taking calls and emails and responding to things. So I'm sure that's got to be a big deal.
It is.
No, go ahead. Okay, so let me ask you, can you identify one or two things that have been different from the first event to this event?
Well, the main things that stand out are our attendance and the amount of space that we have to purchase from the convention center. So those are definitely two of the largest. I think another one that stands out is the quality of guests. As we've gotten larger, we've been able to afford, to bring in higher level media and comic book guests, and so I think that has definitely been a big reason. It's not the only reason, but it's definitely one of the contributing factors to the growth of our show.
Now, you are you a comic book fan, or is this just are you a fan of any of the facets of this that kind of draw you to this? Are you a fan of an actor or an artist or a genre or comics or anything of that nature?
I would likely get tarred and feathered at the show.
I know. It's like, yeah, go ahead.
This is actually a business. We definitely are. We're a family-run industry. My brother and I, probably the closest thing that we got to sci-fi would be Star Wars and Star Trek. So it's definitely, on the Star Trek end, probably for me more than anything, is definitely fascinating to see. I imagine if my father was still alive, he would definitely not believe that William Shatner was ever a guest at, or that we would ever have the ability to have William Shatner as a guest at the show. So, but I definitely am not a fangirl. I have certainly learned along the way. And if I had more time, I think I would certainly love to be.
Okay, so of all the people that you've had over the years, have you been starstruck with any of them?
Probably, again, maybe going backwards a little bit, probably the individuals from Star Trek: The Next Generation, only because I had a connection to that as a child. It was my father's favorite television show. Right. So I think that for me, maybe, William Shatner. And then on the comic side, clearly Stan Lee. I think that he's a pioneer, and I think that it's amazing that he still has the ability to do what he does.
Oh yeah, he's a juggernaut there.
And he definitely commands an audience, or he has a huge following. So I think that's awesome.
So do you guys realize how cool you really are? I know you probably don't walk around thinking, "Boy, I'm cool today," but do you realize, like, you guys, you're like, I'm sure you're the unsung heroes to this, but you're like rock stars when it comes to this, because you actually can draw so many things together, and I think it's kind of cool. I would be wowed. With regards to, like, what you just said with regards to being more of a business than anything else, it's kind of like I could never be a bartender because I don't drink, but I guess I could. I'd be the better bartender because I wouldn't be drinking and drunk and drinking from the till. But
I think that you would. I wouldn't, and I definitely don't want that comment to be misunderstood. I don't look at this as a dollar and cents type of thing, but for me, I think that it makes my job easier because I don't allow my, my fandom to get in the way of making good decisions, that are, on behalf of the company. But I think as far as, regardless of what anyone says, you can say that you're starstruck or not starstruck. It's very difficult to concentrate, when you're in a room with, actors from The Walking Dead, for instance, or Star Trek or Doctor Who. These are individuals that you see on your television screen or on big movie screens. And it's a little bit hard not to kind of stand there for a second and have to compose yourself before you go over to introduce yourself.
Right. No, my background is I do improv comedy. I do performances at Sci-Fi up downtown here in Orlando. I'm a member of a couple other comedy troupes, so we do all sorts of gigs and stuff. A couple of our people did some shows there at Megacon. They put some comic themed shows together, and they've performed there. But I've talked to quite a few people. For example, a friend of mine does. There's a horror thing that comes here every year. I can't remember what the name is. And the thing is she's got to hire, because these actors are very, very popular. So they have people that escort them around, and it's better to have somebody that really doesn't care, because they're not going to fawn over you know what I mean. They're a little nicer to the people while they're there to protect them and make sure they get to where they need to be. They're not there to drool over them and all that. So it's kind of like they look for people that are responsible, but also not necessarily as in head over heels for these people, because it offers a little more professionalism for the person being escorted around.
Exactly, and that you hit the nail on the head with that professionalism. You know, I think that it's a win-win situation. It's a win-win. It's a win for the convention, because they have somebody that that they don't have to worry about, that is going to put their best foot forward in regards to the convention. But also for the guests, because I think that they probably, they're most definitely human beings, and having people in their face all the time has got to get old.
No, I'm sure. I was listening to an interview. One of your artists that you're going to have there, his name is Brett Pinson. I might not be pronouncing it wrong. He's an up-and-coming artist. He has a comic book series of his own, and he was talking about. In this interview, he was talking about how these events are for many ways help launch quite a few careers. For example, not everybody is an artist, but he happens to be an artist, and he does, so he has his own comic book series, his own events that he does, and so what happens is he goes to these he hobnobs, he networks, he gets to meet fans, he gets to sign things, so it's his way of because he doesn't have the notoriety that some of these bigger names do, and the events like yours allow them to get exposure, interact, network with people that they wouldn't have otherwise networked, and he's made a pretty good living out of doing nothing but these events. I don't think I could live like that, because I'd be spending too much money on things I don't need.
Brett I would count Brett as a personal friend of mine, and he is a great artist, and he deserves any recognition that he gets.
So and I know he had a series that he was doing. Apparently, one of the guys that he was writing with passed away a couple of years ago. So that's been a change from the fact that he's still going is a big deal. But all the artists that I've seen, all the people. For me, for example, I'm 48, so my fandom goes back to even the 70s TV shows, and you'll have old actors, and I say that old actors. That's poor. It's really bad for them. I say, like, you'll have the old Captain Marvel. I want to say Jason Bostwick or Bostic. I can't remember. I have to look up the spelling of his name. But and he'll be there, and he'll have a booth, and he'll be selling the videos and all the things, and he signs. I came a couple of times where. Gil Gerard, he went through a weight loss thing several years ago. He was kind of a chunky guy, and he went through that weight loss thing. And a couple of years later, you saw him, and he looked like he did back when he was. So, and I can't always afford. Don't get me wrong; it's worth 100% worth it. Everything you do is 100% worth it. But so I'll just walk up and thank them for the years that they've given me entertainment, because there are so many of them that have done so many wonderful things that I have been a fan of. So,
I agree.
I want to take a quick break. And then we'll come back, and what we'll do is we'll talk about some of the questions that you get, some of the feedback that you get, and how things are working for you, any changes this year, and we'll go from there. Is that okay?
That's perfect.
I will be right back.
You're listening to PJ and Friends on PJandFriends.com. Orlando, Florida.
Have you ever wanted to ride in a hot air balloon? Well, you can with Orlando Balloon Rides. It's an adventure of a lifetime. Take a ride in a hot air balloon. You will fly with the winds on a truly amazing journey. Explore Florida from the orange groves to the theme parks and more. See it all from a whole new vantage point. Experience total excitement from start to finish. You will ascend above the treetops to several thousand feet. This is an experience of a lifetime. Visit OrlandoBalloonRides.com for more information. That's OrlandoBalloonRides.com. Zoom Air Adventure Park Orlando, ziplining at its best. A Zoom Air Adventure is a great outing for families, friends, or coworkers. This entertaining self-propelled attraction gives both nature lovers and challenge seekers the opportunity to enjoy the thrill of adventure. Feel your adrenaline pump as you conquer abundant treetop challenges, including exhilarating rides on our zipline. Visit zoomair.us for more information. That's zoomair.us.
Nalor Brazilian Steakhouse, Winter Park. Nalor is an upscale casual Brazilian restaurant serving all-you-can-eat grilled meats, carved tableside. Nalor serves more than 15 different cuts of beef, lamb, chicken, and pork using a traditional open-flame churrasco barbecue. This provides the same tender and flavorful meats that have remained popular in Latin America for centuries. Nalor also boasts a gourmet salad bar with over 45 delectable choices ranging from smoked salmon to fresh asparagus, a variety of fine cheeses, prosciutto, mouth-watering hot dishes, and assorted seafood items. To complement the meal, every table is offered our house specialty, oven-warmed cheese bread. For reservations, call 407-645-1112. That's 407-645-1112. Or visit nalor.com.
Excuse me, is that your Diet Pepsi?
Sofia Vergara. Yeah, this is my Diet Pepsi. I love Diet Pepsi.
Do you love every sip?
Nothing is better than drinking a refreshing Diet Pepsi and just reveling in its crisp, delicious taste.
Well, you know what they say. If you love something, let it go. And if it comes back, it was meant to be.
So I should set this Diet Pepsi free and wait for it to come back. Then it'll be more delicious than ever. Would you hold my Diet Pepsi for me?
I'd love to.
Thank you. What happens now?
Go, get out of here. It can't come back to you if you're standing next to it.
Thanks, Sophia. I'll wait for you, Diet Pepsi.
The only thing better than an ice-cold Diet Pepsi is a free ice-cold Diet Pepsi.
Love every sip at dietpepsi.com.
Adventure diving has transformed landwalkers into underwater explorers with dives and scuba lessons since 1973. Located in the Crystal River, puts adventurers on the doorstep of the manatee capital of the world. Adventure Diving's scuba certification courses combine online learning and practical lessons to enable solo excursions, and with a full slate of above-water activities, keep feet dry, allowing visitors to soak, including sunset cruises, airboat rides, horseback adventures, and helicopter tours. For more information, call Adventure Diving at 352-794-7227. That's 352-794-7227.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, just to remind you that the Bay Area Renaissance Festival, Relive the Legend, is going on weekends, February 14th through the March 29th at the Mosey Museum of Arts and Science in Tampa. Go to BayAreaRenFest.com for more information. Hey, PJ and Friends has several ways to promote your product, service, club, group, or business. You can sponsor a segment or a whole show. Advertising packages are affordable. We can do 30 or 60-second commercials or live reads, which this is, and I've misplaced my script, so I'm making this up as I go along. Email us at sales@pjandfriends.com for more information. And now, back to our wonderful guest. Christine, thank you for waiting for me.
Oh, no problem.
I appreciate your patience. One of the reasons that we talked, first, last year you helped me out with a situation, and you were very kind to me, and I appreciate that. And then this year I called because we had a discussion here. One of our cast members is in a wheelchair, and they had something. I can't give you the details about what the problem was because I wasn't there when it happened. And I called you. Excuse me. I called you. And not even really having all the information, and that really is kind of unfair to you. But that would prompt me to call you, and you were kind enough to have this conversation with us. Excuse me. Boy, that's not good. To have a job where you're talking, you got a horse in your front. But we talked about a bunch of things. We talked about some of the feedback that you guys get and how you deal with it. Like, for example, last year, there was a concern about the location had changed on you guys, not necessarily by your choice. Did you want to touch base on that a little bit?
I think that it's just very important for anyone that attends Megacon to understand that we do fight for space and location. Unfortunately, we are an open to the public show, so we are coded differently. And to an attendee, they don't care about that, and they don't understand the difference. I didn't understand the difference until I started doing this. But unfortunately, we are up against the largest trade shows in the world, and they want to come to Orlando when the weather is guaranteed to be beautiful when it's blizzarding everywhere else in the United States. So our original show dates, have always tended to be end of February, beginning of March, and as the years have gotten longer, it has progressively moved further towards the end of March and now into April. And unfortunately, we have to take space as it's available. And the way that that's offered to us is first they look for the large amount of space that we need, and then they let us know the dates that those are available. And so that's kind of how we end up with the space. We were not happy about being in the North-South building last year, and unfortunately, with the large attendance that we have, things like escalators and stairs, and it definitely limits people's ability to move from one level to another. And with that many people and a small amount of stairs, a couple of escalators, and one elevator, it just definitely doesn't work. But I just guess I want to be sure, just in that long rambling sentence there, that people understand that that's not a choice that we make. We have to take the space that is available to us. And there is not a venue that's large enough to house our crowds. So, we love the Orange County Convention Center. We do have a great relationship with them. But as our show's gotten larger, it definitely limits the time frame that we have to get these big spaces.
Some of the feedback that we've heard, obviously, last year you were sort of put in a spot that really wasn't prepared for your location, where you were, what you're used to, and the concern was that, people would pay in advance for their tickets, and then there was a long wait. And I understand, as you told me, that last year at one point you made a decision, as long as they had their ticket, you were just letting people in, and then you went back later and validated the receipts. You said apparently you only had 2 or 3 that were not accounted for or duplicates. What would you say to you? What is the best way? Someone's coming to your event. What is the best way for them? What is the most comfortable way that works well with your process that would help them have a better experience in line or do so? How should they do your convention as far as entrance and tickets and so forth?
Ticketing has always been an issue, and I think it'll be an issue any time you attend an event that has a large attendance like ours. We did use ShowClicks last year for the first time, so just with anything new, there's a period of time where you suddenly have to kind of cut your losses and recognize that the process that you're utilizing maybe doesn't work for that many people. And so that's why we decided to go ahead and just start taking the barcodes and scanning them at a later time. It is necessary to have those scanners because, unfortunately, there are dishonest people out there. Fortunately, in history, we don't have a high volume of that at our show. As far as what my suggestions to attendees would be is to get there a little bit early and go ahead and get in line. You might wait in line a little bit longer doing that, but at least you know that you're going to get the beginning of the line and it's going to move, relatively quickly. To my knowledge, I believe last year that the only issue that we had as far as latency in lines would have been on Friday, which is the first day of the event. Right. And that was probably from, the time that we opened the actual ticket line until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon before we finally started getting it moving, relatively, quickly.
I think one of the things last year that was, and I'm not sure how long you had done this, if you came in on a Friday, for example, but wanted to buy tickets for Saturday or Sunday, you weren't doing advance purchases on site for other days. Has that changed this year?
It is. Honestly, in history, we have never advance sold tickets on site. It isn't something that we've ever done in the past, so it's not something that we changed in 2014 where people thought that they possibly would have the opportunity. And we absolutely take responsibility for not, providing the due diligence and making sure that our attendees understood that. It was posted on the website, but unfortunately not everybody reads. So we have made a decision that we are going to advance sell every day of the show. So if you come on Friday, you can either purchase a 3-day wristband, a Friday wristband, or a Saturday, Sunday, whatever combination of tickets you'd like to do. Good. And we definitely hope that will help people. And it may add a little bit of additional line, on Friday, but it'll definitely pay off on Saturday and Sunday, which are our busiest days.
Very good. One of the things we saw, feedback we got was during the panel discussions, people would be in line for these, and then I guess the doors would open and people would rush, and whoever. Any feedback on that? Any comments on that, and how people? Obviously we're hoping people are going to be good neighbors, but that doesn't always happen.
Well, that was definitely I don't know that tragic is the correct word, but I believe that if you are a big enough fan of anything and you wait in line when you know that there are limited seats available, it is tragic for somebody who, especially for the Walking Dead panel issue that we had last year. And unfortunately, what happens is, just like at any other show, but I'm only going to take responsibility for our show and say that it was definitely handled incorrectly. There were a lot of chiefs and not enough Indians. And when you have somebody that opens doors in the back of the hall and starts letting people in from the back of the line, clearly there's going to be an issue there. And we definitely, we have never, in the history of my, involvement with the show, I do not ever recall having an issue like that. And it was a very heavily sought after. That particular panel was probably the most popular and heaviest attended panel of the weekend. So we definitely have a lot. We have definitely done a lot more thinking this year about how those lines will be handled,
right,
and how those doors will be opened. And there will be one main entrance, and that will be the only space that people will be allowed to come in. The VIPs will always have first dibs on seats, but they have to be there in advance, and it'll all be very easily understood. There'll be two very distinct lines, and the only individuals that will get in before that general admission line will be anyone who purchased the VIP package.
And as a general rule, I mean, anything like this, there's always going to be a bump. There's always going to be a glitch. There's going to be something that you didn't plan for, or something that unexpected happens. And people need to understand that you guys aren't out there to create. You would love nothing more than for things to go 100% perfect. I mean, it would make your world a lot, but unfortunately, that does not always happen. There's always something, while yes, people are, this is a big, the price point is it's a serious investment for a lot of people between traveling and getting here, hotels. Some people plan their whole year around this, so we understand that a lot of people are making the trek for this. But if they come with an open mind, if they come understanding that, if there's a glitch, you guys are going to do your best to fix it. You're going to do your best to work with it. If nothing else, you'll use it as a learning experience for the next year. It may not be what they want to hear, but you guys are not out to cause anybody frustration. That's not what you're trying to do. It may happen. It's not the intent. And if people can, be patient, wait in line, do the things they need to do, you'll get them in. If there's a problem, there are people that handle it. And if they have feedback, give it to you. Because I know I was looking at the site, and you and I talked last week. You guys have heard all the things that we were talking about, and some people aren't as polite as they could be, and I wasn't last week. I was pretty a nasty fellow. But if they just, understand that you're throwing a party and you've invited them, and you don't invite people just to give them a hard time, and I hope that they understand that you guys really do an awful lot of work to make these things happen.
We do. I mean, after all, I don't throw this convention for myself. This is something that is supposed to be a very fan-friendly environment, a family. We want to enrich everybody's experience, and we want to invite families to come and feel comfortable. There were so many issues last year between the traffic and the parking and the crowding in the lines and getting into the hall, and then, waiting in all those lines to get in another line to get your tickets. Unfortunately, there are issues. Excuse me, I think you gave me your frog.
I did. I'm sorry. It's my fault.
I believe that there were so many things that kind of played into it. And as a consumer myself, I can certainly sympathize with that. And we just want to be sure that people understand that we do hear constructive criticism. We do understand that there were issues, and we will work very hard to try to be sure that those issues don't resurface. And I just, something that I think that maybe people lose sight of, and I completely understand that they feel as though their experience was ruined because of one thing or another, or a coupling of things, that we are actually people too. And when people say hateful things about something that we've worked so hard to produce, especially when there are things that we legitimately may not have had control over, it hurts. I mean, it definitely, it takes a toll on you. And I guess we would just like for people to know, just like you said, that we want our attendees to come every year. We want them to look forward to having a fantastic time, and we want them to know that if they do experience an issue and they come to us and explain that in a civil way, that we will do everything in our power to fix it, so that not only that they don't have to experience that, that bad thing in the future, but also that other attendees don't have to experience it either.
Right. Well, and the good news, though, this year, you're back on the side of the convention center where you were the previous year, so it's a bigger space. You're back in your home again.
Correct.
So that should help things a little.
It's definitely better for our attendees.
Now, is it see, and I forget to lay. I was looking at your website in the loading docks, and if people realize, if they took a look at your site, if they took a look at just the instructions you guys have to put together to tell people how to load and unload and all this, if they realize just that, how the magnitude of that alone is a big deal. Have you guys grown? I mean, are you taking up more space, or is it the same amount of space on that side as it always has been?
It's more space than what we've had on that side in the past, but it's about 10,000 square feet less than what we had in 2014. And that mainly where that space, the difference in that space is more the staging area that we have to use to actually, once we sell the ticket, there has to be a space for these people to go and stand in line. And so that's where we've had to take a little bit of that space away, unfortunately. But again, in order to avoid our show being moved into the summertime, we've had to make some concessions, and on our end as well. But it's definitely will be a much better layout as far as the actual floor plan and the way that things are set up. It's very similar to the way that it was last year. The entrance is on the left this year instead of the right, but other than that, everything's pretty much the same. As far as the attendee, what the attendee sees. And but as far as accessibility to the hall and accessibility to the different levels for panels and presentations, it'll definitely it'll be much easier for them to navigate.
Very cool. I want to thank you for your time. I think this is important. I think people need to realize that there are people on the other side of this. Yes, you guys have to be making money, or you wouldn't be doing this. But that aside, I mean, you're not going into this with the intention of having people have a bad time, and obviously it's sad to say, but you can't please everybody. You can do your best, and you can put it out there. And if what you have is it meets their need, great. If there are things that need to be fixed, you'll do your best. But you're not doing this to piss people off. You're here to, hopefully they're going to have a good time and enjoy what you've given them. So. Oh,
exactly. We certainly don't want our hard work to be for nothing. So, and it is a business, but at the end of the day, it's supposed to be a fan. It's for the fans. It's not for us. And we do hear what they're saying. And we hope that the ones that, the naysayers and the people that have negative things to say, we hope that we can make good on, whatever upset them in the past, so that they can move forward and maybe find some happiness at the event as well.
Okay, I have a couple of questions I ask everybody, and these are just silly questions before we end the thing. First, if you're out to dinner and you order a steak, is it rare, medium rare, or well done?
It is rare. The colder, the center, the better.
And when you're out eating that steak, is it baked potato, mashed potato, or French fries?
I would prefer a baked sweet potato, no butter.
Way to go! You're like the third person to say that. All right. If you were stranded on a desert island, what one item and one person would you want with you?
That is tough. I would probably bring my favorite book, which I've read multiple times. It's a book called She's Come Undone by Wally Lamb, and I would definitely, without a doubt, bring my daughter.
See, can I tell you, though, your answer about your daughter, at least it's not a politically correct one, because I'm usually talking to husband and wives, and so I'm going to bring my wife. And I'm thinking, you're dooming this person to be on the island with you. Why would you do that? But I get that. Then one person came up with, I'm going to bring a satellite phone and a machete or a okay, so they didn't want to be on the island. I had one other person who runs an improv theater here, and he says, I'm going to bring Ryan Stiles, and what else he said, and a script. So he had no intentions of eating or surviving, and he was going to bring, So I like the fact you're bringing your daughter, but you do realize you're dooming your daughter to whatever's going on with you on that island.
We'll figure it out. I think we're pretty strong women running the family, and I think that we can certainly figure it out. But as long as I have her with me, if I have to, I'll burn the book. But as long as I have her with me, I think that she probably could get me through just about anything.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time. And you know what? I'm going to look this up because I should know this by now. Megacon this year is April 10th through the 12th.
It is April 10th through the 12th. We are in the East Building, or the West Building, I guess is really what it's called, in halls A2 through B4. And one thing that I did want to throw in there very quickly,
sure.
Something that we are doing for the advanced ticket holders this year is the first time we've ever done it. We will post more information on our website as far as location and times, but we will start giving our advanced tickets out on Thursday.
Well, that's cool.
It gives people the opportunity to swing by, especially if they're local or if they're within driving distance. They can come in on Thursday, grab their tickets, and then all they have to do is slap their wristbands on and be there on Friday when the doors open.
Very cool. Very cool. See? You guys are, you guys are taking things you've learned from previous years and you're trying new things, and we can't ask for more than that. But thank you very much. All right, you have a great day. Thank you for your time today. And if you guys ever have something you need to get out there or you want to say, again, this will be available online, and you guys can share it if you like. If you want to post it, I'll give you the link to that later, so you guys can do that if you want to share, so people can have these answers for themselves. And if there's ever time you want to have something to say, just let us know. We'll do our best to get you out there.
All right. Thank you so much.
You have a great day. And
thank you. You do the same.
All right. This has been PJ and Friends. Our interview with Christine from Megacon. Awesome lady. Can you imagine that, though? Can you imagine putting that event on? Can you imagine having to be the person, it's like having a party that you're not, and I've talked to other people that do events. You got the improv festivals and so forth that I see every year, and these people put these things on, and more often than not, you're like the host that's making sure everybody's having a good time. And so very rarely, I met this lady last year, and this poor lady was running from one place to another, and be a little patient with these people, guys. Have a good time, man. Anyway, we'll see you next time. You guys have a great day.
You're listening to PJ and Friends on PJandFriends.com. Orlando, Florida.